This side or this side? Which one would you choose? We did it! Oh my goodness, you guys. Late last night, right before I was going to bed, I noticed that I crossed over the 20,000 subscribers. Oh my goodness, thank you. Thank you, thank you so very much. I am so grateful for every single one of you that has supported me, encouraged me. There were so many times you guys were leaving me comments saying, I know you're going to cross over that threshold before Christmas, because that was my initial goal, was I just wanted to do this before Christmas time. And so many of you just are so supportive and leave me comments, and it's wonderful, wonderful. So thank you so much for supporting me and for sharing my content. So I appreciate you guys so very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And now I just want to keep going, because I don't want to, I mean, this was a great milestone, but now the ambition is there that I just want to keep going. So just keep sharing my content, keep telling other women about my channel, and we're just going to keep going. So I don't want to, in my title, you'll see it, I'm calling it makeup mistakes, but I don't like using the word mistakes. I'm of the mindset that I think makeup is just one of those things, it's fun to play with, but at the end of the day, I think there is certain tips and techniques, especially as we are older women, that there's just different ways to apply our makeup that can make it look a little bit better, maybe not so harsh looking, like more of a softer, natural look. So that's what we're going to dive into today. And I also wanted to piggyback off a video. I'm going to put the thumbnail of the video over here of one I did a few months ago, and it was like I think I called it my makeup secrets or something like that. And I went into a little bit of tips and tricks and that sort of thing about applying makeup. So I wanted to focus more on techniques this time, where it's hopefully going to help enhance your features and play to our strength. So when I'm talking about my skin, I have much drier skin than I did a few years ago. I have hyperpigmentation. I have sagginess going on, like on my jowls here. The fine lines are really becoming prominent on my face. More texture. So we just got a bunch of stuff going on as we age. So I decided I was gonna pick 5 techniques, but I just wanted to start off, I think these are kind of like the basics. Now, one of the first things I'm going to start off with is color correcting. Now, if you are one of the very fortunate people that doesn't need a color corrector, then you can certainly skip this step. The darkness under my eyes is, it's a couple of things. It's hereditary. I've had dark circles under my eyes since I was a little kid. I've always been self-conscious of it. It's always bothered me. So I have always tried to hide my dark circles. And up until, I'm going to say, even a couple of years ago, I've always just used concealer. I started dabbling a little bit into color correctors because I thought, you know what, there must be something else, because sometimes concealers just don't do it for you. Well, then I found my holy grail color corrector, and that is the Clinique. This is the Even Better All Over Primer and Color Corrector. Now, what I like about this is because it is doing 2 things. So it's going to help prime under my eyes. Now, I do have all of my skincare products on. I have my eye cream on. I have my normal face products on and my sunscreen. And I did apply a little bit of primer to my face. So that's why you can probably see I'm looking a bit glowy right now. And plus I have some natural light coming in on this side. So if it looks a little bit like my lighting maybe looks a little bit different on this side, that's why I just have a big, huge window over here. And I thought, you know what, let's have some natural sunlight coming through today. So this corrector for me is the perfect shade. It is in the shade Peach. And I think there was another darker one for darker skin tones. And I think that was like an apricot color. Oh, and I forgot to say, so what I'm going to do is one side I'll do more, I'm going to say the mistake side, and then the other side is going to be way that I like to do it, and these are just techniques that I've learned over the last few years. Some of the stuff on the mistake side is stuff I used to do all the time, so it's just changed over the years. I love the doe foot applicator, and you really don't need a lot of this. So what I first do is apply it right in the very corner where I am darkest, and that's all I usually need, is just like a little dot. It does come with like a sponge tip applicator, but you can see I've never used it. I find it just picks up a lot of product that way. I just usually use my finger and just blend it in right in that area. I usually don't put it like entirely under my whole entire under eye because I'm not dark under the, like my whole entire eye. I'm just dark right in the very corner. Now I wanted to start with this first because I usually let my color corrector sit for a few minutes before I go in with concealer. I'm going to end up putting this hair back because it's driving me crazy. But I'll do that in a second. But you can see, so this side here has the color corrector. This side we're just going to leave as is. And we'll, as we're going through doing the tutorial, you'll see the difference in the two sides. All right, so next we're going to go in with a skin product. And I'm going to say skin product because I use on a daily basis. I either use like a BB, a CC, or an actual foundation. And I'm not usually in the habit of going and purchasing wrong colored foundations and that sort of thing. But sometimes that happens when you're ordering something online. It's really hard to see the proper shade online. They just look very different. And as much as I try my best, I have in the past picked the wrong shade, unfortunately. So what I'm going to show you is the e.l.f. Camo CC Cream. This is it's a full coverage, but a natural finish. The reason I'm picking this one is because this shade is way too dark for me. So I think that's one of the mistakes that happen is choosing the wrong shade of foundation. Whether it's too light or too dark, that can make such a huge difference on how it looks on your face. And especially choosing a darker shade, it'll almost appear like I'm wearing like a mask. And we don't want foundation to look like that, right? We want it to look natural and to blend in nicely. So that's the reason I picked this one. The other side, what I have is a foundation that just looks really nice on my skin and is the perfect shade for my skin tone. So although I'm using two different products, it's just trying to demonstrate to you the look of something too dark and something that looks very nice and natural. Keep in mind when you're watching this part, I would have loved to have two different, like the exact same product, but I don't have that, unfortunately. So this CC cream is quite a thick formula. And I'm going to say in general, when you're using like foundations or like even CC and BB creams, even skin tints, you don't need a lot. Take a little bit first, and then when you're applying them, just building them up. So I always start with just a very tiny amount. I'm just going to use my BK Beauty. This is the 101 foundation brush. And we're just going to start applying that in the center of my face and working my way out. Now on this side, I am not going to do my neck area because I want you to see the difference of how it doesn't look right, like it just doesn't blend together. Now I love the formula. Like this is a really nice CC cream, and I think they have a new version out, like a more of a hydrating version. I haven't seen it here in Canada yet. Even on the back of my hand, you can see how dark it is compared to my natural skin tone. It's quite dark. Now this one is really good for the comparison of being like a full coverage. It's quite surprising how much it covers for a CC cream. All right, so hopefully you can see the definite difference, especially up on my forehead, that you can clearly see the how dark it is compared to my natural skin tone. I do have this in the shade Light 210. And when I saw it online, I thought, oh, that sounds perfect for me. And clearly it wasn't. And then, I mean, it's beautiful. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it looks really nice on the skin. It does include SPF in it as well. But definitely just not the shade for me. And then I didn't do my neck. So you can clearly see how dark it is compared to my neck area. So the product I'm going to go in with on the other side is my Haus Labs. This is like one of my holy grail foundations. I love this foundation. This one I have in the shade 110 Light Neutral. Now this is a beautiful foundation. Here, just let me, I still have all that stuff on my back of my hand, so let me get rid of that. So again, I've just used one pump of this. It is a little bit more of a runnier foundation. So that's going to give me that more like a natural finish. Again, I just pick it off the back of my hand and very lightly I start applying it to the center of my face and work my way out. Foundation is one of those products you don't necessarily have to do your whole entire face. If there's just certain areas on your face that you feel need coverage, then just apply the foundation in those areas. You don't like I said, you don't necessarily have to do your whole entire face. So I take that all the way down. I'm going to take this one, I'm going to take it right down my neck. And see how it just blends in so seamlessly. The shade is just beautiful. I love it when you get the perfect foundation shade, because you don't want it to look like a mask. That's not the whole point of a foundation. Foundation is just supposed to even out your skin tone and have it just look a little bit better. Covers up like all those little, maybe little imperfections. This one, I find it doesn't sink into my fine lines. And that's the other thing to look for, like in foundations or even, you know, CC and BB creams, is finding a particular formula that works for you. If you have like more oily skin, you're probably going to want to use more of a matte formula. But if you're someone like me that has dry skin, then like sticking to something that is more hydrating, maybe gives a little bit more glowiness. That CC cream is so far off. I can't even like mesh them together. The color is so bad for me. And then as an added step, if you ever feel that you have, like if you use a brush and you want it to blend a little bit more, then go in with a sponge. Sometimes I'll do that and just kind of give one little swipe of the sponge all over, make sure everything's been blended in. That's what I'm going to do on my forehead here, so it kind of blends a little bit better. Looks like, I just was looking in the mirror, it looks like now I'm wearing earrings with that, with the clips in. So I'll come a little bit closer for you guys now. And so this is the do side. I'm just going to say do and don't side. It's just easier. This is the do side and this is the don't side. I find it's just accentuating a little bit more of my colors. It looks definitely like a mask. Like I can definitely see the two skin tones. And then this side is more natural. Everything has just blended seamlessly together. I still have a little bit of my natural hyper like skin coming through, and that's fine. I like that. I don't mind my hyperpigmentation, and that's showing. I just want it evened out. All right, so next let's dive into concealer. So one of the things, let's just backtrack for a minute. One thing you'll never see me doing is applying foundation right up underneath my eye. I think sometimes what happens is I've watched some people apply foundation and then they go in with concealer on top of that. And I think the more product you add under your eye is just going to make for a disaster. It is going to make stuff really cakey. It's going to accentuate your fine lines. So I have never put foundation right up under my eyes and then put concealer. I do two different steps. So I do my foundation, and you see I always stop right underneath, like right to underneath my eye, and then that's when I go in with concealer. So keep in mind, I love this concealer. I think it's a great formula. It is just the wrong shade for me. So it's the Physicians Formula, the Butter Glow Concealer. Now what I've started doing, because I don't want to waste the product, is I've just been mixing it in with a different concealer that's a little bit darker, so I can get the perfect shade for me. But for this demonstration, I'm just going to go right in with the concealer so you can see how light it is. It's in the shade light medium, so I guess I should have picked the other, like there was just a little bit of a darker shade, because I think that's one of the mistakes that happens, is going in with a concealer that's too light. Because I think the mindset is I'm dark under the eye, so I wanna lighten that like the area up. And what ends up happening is it's just drawing attention to that area, and it makes it look worse. So one of the things to combat that is going in with a shade that matches your skin tone. So let's go first on the side, the mistake side. So this is something that I think up until even a few years ago, everybody was doing this. So it's applying the concealer as like a triangle under the eye, and the theory was it's going to make the under eye look brighter. And I don't always agree with that, I'm just going to say. So what we're first going to do is apply it right like that, and then we'll bring it like that and fill it all in. But you can see definitely how light this this concealer is on me. And what we're going to do is go in with, this is the dupe for the Angie Hot and Flashy concealer brush. This is the Alter Ego version. I'm going to say it's not a bad version. It's definitely not the same, like the bristles, of course, because it's a much more affordable option than the Angie Hot and Flashy, but it's a great dupe. And if I wanted to even make this a little bit more abrupt, I would go like right under the eye, because that just traps all the concealer under the eye, and it just, that again gets all into those little fine lines. But for this demonstration, we're just going to do this. And I always let concealer just sit on the skin for about 10-15 seconds. And I find the warmth of the skin just helps it blend out better. So what we're going to do, and I always stipple it on. I always stipple concealer on. You can see how light this is. And I am going to bring it right up. And we'll kind of use this as a primer today for the eyeshadow. Normally I would say go in with like an actual eyeshadow primer, but we're just going to use this today. But can you see how it's just, it's almost drawing attention to the eye? But this is, you know what, like this is something that I used to do a few years ago. I would always do it this way. I always, like I liked a lighter concealer. And then as I started doing the different techniques, I was like, oh, okay, that I can clearly see that wasn't the right thing. I'm even going to go in with my sponge and just dab it in a little bit, because it's almost, I want this to be like more of a, like this is, I want this to be reality. I don't want to be looking like I am like very harsh and don't do this and don't do that. I want it to be realistic. I think this, you'll see hopefully in when this is all done, just the subtle differences that of the techniques that I'm using, just it looks a little bit more natural and better on mature skin. Now on the dew side, we're going to go in with my Holy Grail Lancome Tint Idole concealer. This is the shade 215. So this concealer is fabulous. Just, it's fantastic. It's a creamy, rich formula. The shade match is perfect for my skin tone. Really nice big doe foot applicator. So the technique that I have adapted over the years now, I'm going to say over the last couple of years for sure, is I use concealer very, very sparingly. So I'm just going to apply a dot here where, and remember this is the color corrector too, right? And on this side where that concealer, you can see, I'll come a little closer. You can see hopefully that darkness is still underneath the eye. The concealer doesn't completely cover it up. And then you'll see the difference when I'm using this side with the color corrector. So I'm just going to apply a little dot here. And I also take it up just a little bit up because I'm quite dark going up the side of my eye. And I apply it just at the end here. And I won't apply, like I'm not going to make a big swoop under my eye, because as we're applying the product, like I said to you, less is more. And it'll just even it out. And then on this side, we're going to go in with the Angie Hot and Flashy brush. And again, I start by stippling. I'm going to go up into that area and see how it's dispersing the product. And I'm going to go up. But can you see the difference of how much more natural this side looks? The shade is perfect. I am going to take it up as well on here. And it blends in so well that I don't even have to use the sponge to kind of even it out. All right, so I just wanted to show you guys the two sides. So this is the side now, all nice. Everything looks nice and blended with the concealer and the foundation. And this is the side with the light concealer and too dark BB cream or CC cream. So I'm just going to quickly go off camera, do the eyeshadow, because the next step is going to be eyeliner. Okay, so I did both eyes the exact same way with the eyeshadow. So I went in with the Sigma Cool Neutrals eyeshadow palette. I love this palette. It's just beautiful, beautiful shades. Gorgeous. It's just a really gorgeous color story. It's really, really pretty. So I just used a few. I just wanted to keep the look really neutral today. So now one of the things that I see is eyeliners that either are too harsh looking, or there's just sometimes too much going on the eyes. So one of the things over the last, I'm going to say over the last couple of years, is I've really gotten away from using black eyeliners. I find the black just really looks so harsh and stark on an eye. I think it's great for if you're in your 20s and 30s, but I think as we mature, we have to go with more soft, like more of a softer look. Again, this is my opinion. And if you love using black eyeliner, then you do you. And don't get me wrong, I have used some darker eyeliners just up until recently, but I usually tend to gravitate to more like grays and bronzy colors and browns and that sort of thing. So I don't really have a lot of black ones anymore, so I just kind of had to dig this one out. It's the NYX, like a NYX retractable eyeliner in black. So on this side, we're just going to start with how I mean, this is how I used to do my eyeliner. I get really close to the lash line. I would go all the way, like all the way over right to like the inner corner. And I think it looked, you know, awesome. That was kind of my go-to look. And then we'll go down along the bottom here. I'm not going to go all the way across because I haven't usually like gone right like under my eye. I could make it like really dramatic, but I don't think that's realistic. I think just kind of going halfway is something that a lot of people do. And then the only other thing I'll do is I'm going to tight line with the black. Okay, so this is something that I used to do all the time. I would use the color under my eye, I would tight line with the black and call it a day. Now what I've started doing is I use a softer color brown. So we're going to go in with this is the Kosas Soul Gazer. I have this one in the shade, I believe it's called Allure. And I'll just show you the two differences between the black and the brown. So you see how it's just more of a richer, softer color. It doesn't look as harsh, especially when you're putting it right up by your eyes. So with the eyeliner, I've started to do a bit of a different technique. Is I don't go all the way like across my lid. I kind of start in the corner. Again, I always stay close to the lash line. But I only go about halfway now. And this side, you notice I didn't tight line, whereas on this side I'm going to tight line. I'll use the same eyeliner and just quickly run it along my upper lash line. This is a waterproof version, so it does a pretty good job about staying in the waterline and not transferring. Now hopefully you can see just even those little subtle differences that I did. How on this side, like the eyeliner, when I apply it about halfway, but I taper it so that it just is giving me like a bit of a lifted look, going from here, like from that eye to the end. It's more just like it kind of makes it look a little bit lifted. Whereas this eye, I find like when I look at it now, it just seems very like smaller and closed off. So a couple things that you again, you can certainly stop at this and then just apply your mascara. I like to, like I'm just one of those people, I just like a little bit of something under my eye. I just think it looks so naked under the eye. Now you can do a couple of things. Use a really nice shade under the eye of like a liner. So this one is the Sephora Shimmer Taupe. This is like one of my favorite eyeliners for under the eye. Or you can certainly go in with like a powder. So I would usually use like something like the rougher, the 03 brush. You can see it has like a little bit of a taper on the, let me bring it closer. It has like a little bit of a taper on the end. It's so precise. It's perfect for like under like your lash line. But for today's demonstration, we're going to use the Sephora one. This is just a really pretty light colored, see how, so it's the one on the end here. Look at how pretty that is. And it's very subtle. It's not harsh looking. And what I do is I just take like a little bit, a little line here, very gently just depositing a little bit of color. And I'm only going about, I'm going to say like a quarter to half. I'm not going like my whole entire eye. Like I said, you could stop even at not putting anything. And then I know there's a lot of people that they don't even use like mascara on their bottom. And that just looks really, again, natural looking. I'm just one of those people that I like something under my eyes. And I like using usually mascara under there. And then my other recommendation is using a cream color. Like if you want to use a color in your waterline, using like a cream color liner. I would say not using white. I find white just looks so abrupt and stark. It almost does the opposite of lightening that part. So a cream color is really nice. This is just called the Tarte Fake Away. And this is a nice beigey color. It's a nice cream color. And this I use right in my waterline. Now, I don't use colors in my waterline on a daily basis. I don't think it's good for the eye to use that all the time. But certainly if I'm getting dressed up or if I'm going out for an evening and that sort of thing, I do a lot more tight lining. But see the difference between the two eyes and how bright this one looks now? And I find the cream color just enhances the eye, makes it a little bit whiter. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave you with these two here, just show you so you can see the differences. I'm going to quickly apply some mascara, and we're going to get into the next step. Okay, so off camera, I just threw on some mascara, some half lashes, and then I went in with my Makeup by Mario. This is the Soft Sculpt Bronzer, because I'm not going to include bronzer in this today. I wanted to use a bronzer that looks very natural on the skin, because the next thing we're going to talk about is blushes. So I love blush. I'm going to say like a blush lover that I've seen some other content creators do. I'd like to use blush as more of just like a little bit of a enhancer on the cheek, but I don't like overdoing it. So on the don't side, I'm going to use the L'Oreal Infallible blush. So the reason I'm picking this one is it's quite it's one of those blushes that you have to be very, very careful when you're using it, because it can be quite pigmented, and if it when it goes on, it goes on. And what I was also going to say is, I know I've mentioned this to you in videos before. I always think it's better to go in with more of a lighter hand, and then you can always build product up rather than going in like full on, let's like put a whole bunch on, and then because it's so much harder to remove that stuff. So for this one, we're going to go in. This is the dupe for the Angie Hot and Flashy blush brush. This is the Alter Ego version. So I'm going to use, I'm going to build it up. I'm going to make it realistic. Like I said to you guys earlier, I don't want this to be a total look like clown makeup. I just want it to look realistic. So I have about that much on the brush. And I always apply things like I like to stipple products on. So on this side, I'm going to apply the blush. And you can already see, holy smokes, like it's very pigmented. Like this would even be too much for me. But what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to bring it a little bit farther down than I normally do blush, because I think that's a mistake that we have over the years. We've been told, put it on the apple of your cheek. And as mature women, I find that as you age, like everything's kind of falling, right? So where my apple is when I smile, like that, but when you don't smile, look at how it's fallen, right? So I'm going to smile a little bit, put it right on the apple of my cheek like we've always been told. See how it just has come down too far, and it almost is changing the way that my face shape looks. Because that's the other thing to keep in mind is when you're applying products, this is what works for me and my face shape, my skin tone, but everybody has to do what works for them and learning where the blush placement should go. But I find it's just that's too far down on my face. And like I said, this is a little bit too much blush for me, but I have seen other people wear it like this is fine for them. Oh, and I forgot to tell you the shade. This is the shade, or Fearless Coral. Fearless Coral. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, love the blush. It's really pretty. I think I actually had it as one of my favorites. But when you're using it, you need a very, very light hand. I also am of the mindset of I love using more like cream products, but for this demonstration today, I just wanted to show you like more of powders. I think powders sometimes can be just as nice as creams, depending on the formula. So the one I'm going to go in with on the do side is, this is a well used. You can see I can't even see the logo on here anymore. It's my Milani. So this is the Milani Baked Powder Blush, but this is in the shade Luminoso. So this is a really pretty peach shade. I have had this shade for so long. I forgot to swatch them for you guys, so here I'm just going to swatch the two shades. Okay, so the top one is the L'Oreal and the bottom one is the Milani. So see how the peach shade is just like a really nice, more of a natural shade. And then this one I'm going to go in with the Angie Hot and Flashy blush brush. Again, this one I don't worry so much about it being so pigmented. It has a very nice luminosity to the product. So there's enough on the brush. And again, I'm going to stipple it on. But where I'm going to place it is more higher up on the cheek. And I always run it right up into my hairline. I don't usually like swipe product on my face. I think it's nicer to stipple it on. There's a little bit more control that way. And I'm only coming down, like I'm only coming down as far as here. I'm not coming down right into the cheek area. But even with this side here, it's still like it's pretty bright, right? Like I'm going to go in with my sponge and just take a little bit away. See the two placements, this blush looks much more higher up, lifting the face, whereas this is almost drawing the face a little bit down on this side. And I also like suggest too that finding products that aren't going to settle into your fine lines, especially because blush does come up more, right? Like under your eye area. That's one thing I find about cream formulas. That's why I love creams, is I find that they don't do all that settling into your fine lines. But if you find a great powder like these two that I showed you, they do look really nice on mature skin. All right, so I want to hear your thoughts. Here, I'll come a little closer. So from looking, like I'm just kind of quickly looking in the viewfinder, I can see that this side definitely has, I mean, it doesn't look atrocious. I don't think it looks atrocious. I think it just looks a little bit, I'm going to say a little bit harsher than this side over here. I find this side just looks a little bit more put together, a little bit more natural, and like a softer look, a more like I guess softer is the word I'm looking for. This side just has a little bit of the starkness of the eyes, the blush. But again, this is something that I did even just up to like a few years ago. I was wearing my eyes like this and all that. So definitely I've changed how I apply my makeup, that is for sure. And I think as we age, we just have to adapt to all the things that are going on with our skin and, you know, yeah. But I'll just say that. So I just want to thank you so much for watching. And again, thank you so much for helping me achieve my milestone. I can't do it without you guys. Everything that I used today, even like the eyeshadows and stuff like that I didn't show on camera, I'll link those down in the description box for you. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. And as always, I hope everybody has a great week and a great life, and I'll see you all very soon in my next video. Bye!